Hello, everyone. This is the Unbearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz. I'm here with,
Zeke, Cappel.
and I'm also here with,
Jack Cowart.
and I wanted to ask Jack today, who do you want for the Bulls?
Well, at pick 7, I want Mo Bamba the most, realistically, because of our two biggest holes, small forward and center. I think if we picked a center, that would allow us to tank for one more year and pick up a playmaker wing next year. And also because I think defense is one of the things that the Bulls are the worst at the moment. And Mo Bamba's player comparison at the moment is Rudy Gobert, who's one of the best defensive centers in the league.
He does also look a little bit like a Clint Capella with me, but he can shoot better. And I think maybe Clint could play better, like dribbling and with his ball handling and everything. But I don't know if Mo Bamba will be able to let them keep on tanking.
Okay, so what I was going to say is drafting someone for their defense is like a coin flip, because we were talking about this earlier. You draft someone for their defense. If it's just for their defense, they end up being like an average player in the league. You know, it's not really like a top prospect pick. But if their offense ends up working out, or at least comes out of nowhere, they could be one of the best players in the league, like Jaylen Brown, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler. It just has to happen, you know. You never know what the player is going to be like, though. But if we do draft him, hopefully it ends up being like that.
Yeah, it's a big risk because, like you said, the Jimmy Butlers, Kawhi Leonards, they were drafted for their defense. But if their offense works out, and Mo Bamba has been working on his offense, I think he could be a top 5 center in the league, potentially.
I feel like, though, for me personally, if I'm looking at the draft, I really think that we need some wings. Because, like, if you look at all the great teams in the league, a lot of them are based around wing players. And right now, the Bulls, the glaring hole, you're right, the glaring holes are within small forward and center. I'm not too fond of Zach LaVine either, but I do think that a small forward would be better. And I do think, for me personally, I'm at 7 if he's there. I think if you're looking at it for a small forward, I'm thinking Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
For what he can be. I've watched him play, and I'm a little concerned because when you look at him play, he looks like he is playing a little injured. And he doesn't have the same type of athleticism that he used to have. Now, maybe that's just like me looking at him. He's not fully healthy, and he's not at 100%. But it is hard, though, because how are you going to draft someone off of something you haven't seen? Off of just something that you've heard. Now, that did happen when you look at someone like Ben Simmons, but you did see a little bit of Ben Simmons. But it is tough because he's not super quick, and with that, like, Ben Simmons is fast. And you look at Michael Porter Jr., if you don't have the speed, it might take away a lot from his game, especially with the NBA speed.
Yeah, if his injury doesn't get better, it would be a bust. But I think we have to take a risk. And before he got injured, Porter Jr. was a top 3 prospect, I think.
Yeah.
And if we have to take a risk, a top 3 prospect is a pretty big risk, especially if we're getting him at 7.
Yeah.
The other thing about Mo Bamba, I had to agree on Brandon on this, that I would rather have a small forward right now, even though I feel like they're equally needed on the team. This draft just has so many forwards that are just talented. I feel like we should wait another year, you know, to draft a center or try to get move down and get a center.
Yeah. Well, I would think that basically for me, if I can get 2 small forwards, I'm cool. But because I also like Chandler Hutchison, and I'm glad that the Bulls also like Chandler Hutchison, because I think he's going to be, personally, like the Kyle Kuzma of this draft, like a steal. Like, he's going to be later on. He's ranked at, I think, 25 by CBS Sports, and I really think he could be someone. And if one of them have to pan out, I watched this kid play. He can do anything. He can score all over the court, and if
He's
he
polished.
Yeah, he has a really polished game, and everything just looks so smooth when he's running his offense. And I think that him or Michael Porter Jr., if you do end up getting both of them, that's awesome, because at least one of them has to pan out. And I think that if they both pan out, you're looking at a scary team going down the road.
Right, and you don't have to worry about matchup problems, because even if you do have to put one on the bench, they're all like really young players, so it'll be fine. They'll figure out in the future, you know, who's the better player.
Mm-hmm.
And if they both pan out, that gives us a safety blanket with Levine, who I know is a big worry with a lot of Bulls fans right now.
What I like too about Chandler Hutchison is that he actually likes to rebound a lot. Averages like 7.7 rebounds a game, and he averages 3.5 assists. So he does pass the ball as well as score too, because he's not going to have the ball in his hands all the time like a point guard is. So him having 3.5 assists is actually like pretty good considering how much he's going to have the ball in his hands. And he also averages 20 points per game, as well as like he's shooting about 35%, almost 36% from the three. So he's a super well-rounded player. I can't believe he's ranked at 25, but I think it's because he goes to Boise State. I really like this kid, though. But I would be lying if I didn't think that maybe the Bulls should take a chance on Trae Young.
All right. So, I did not like the Bulls draft Trae Young at first. At first, I was like, Michael Porter Jr., Mo Bamba, we have better options. But then I looked at the position that we have a point guard right now, and we have Chris Dunn, and he is a really good point guard, and it seems like he's going to be a better point guard in the future. It's just that through my logic and what I see, I believe that you need a really, really talented point guard to win a championship. That's just what I've seen. It's just my opinion. I just haven't seen a team win in a while without it or get anywhere. I don't feel like Chris Dunn, as talented as he's going to be, I don't feel like he's going to be up there with the big guys. And I feel like Trae Young kind of has more potential than Chris Dunn because of his shooting ability, his passing, even though he has a bad assist-to-turnover ratio.
Yeah, which is like 5.2.
Yeah, he had a high usage rate, and obviously he's not going to have the ball in his hand nowhere as near as he did in college, but he's still going to average probably like 3-4 turnovers. But he will get better with it over time just because he was the decision maker for that team. The sky is a limit for him. People could be talking about how he's better than Westbrook or Steph one day or any of the
He
big
does
point
have
guards.
some really high potential. I do get a little concerned though on his defensive ability. He actually is good on defense. It's just a matter of him putting in the effort and playing defense.
Yeah.
When I've watched him play, when he has played defense, he's played well, and he has a really good eye for the ball. He gets a lot of steals, and I think it's like 1.7 per game. I think, like you said, his potential, his ceiling is very high. And that's the thing, though. If you're going for him at 7, I think you have to get a Chandler Hutchison at 22, and you better hope he's there, because then we're just going to leave the small forward position just wide open, and we don't know if he'll be there at 22. He might be, but maybe some other people are going to be seeing what I'm seeing, or like what you guys saw. He does look like a really good player. It's just that he went to Boise State, and it's not the biggest school. I just hope he's there if we decide to take Trae Young. It is a risk, but if it does work out, that could be a solid team. I do like Chris Dunn, though. I do think he's going to get better. I do think, though, having a Michael Porter Jr. and Chandler Hutchison on the same team could work with Chris Dunn, because he does seem to be a leader and he does get his teammates involved. He plays really good defense. He makes up for... He's one of those players that if he doesn't score that well, he's going to make up for it in any other way. He can guard almost anybody. I've seen him actually do pretty decent job guarding LeBron during the regular season. Not like he's going to stop LeBron or anything, but that's LeBron James. If you can guard him, like, he didn't guard him like extremely well. I'm not giving him the most credit, but like if you can guard him, you can help in so many aspects, especially when you're going up against a Steph Curry in the finals, because that's who you're going to have to stop, realistically. Like, the Rockets are doing really well right now, but the Warriors are who you're going to have to worry about down the line.
Another thing about drafting Trae Young is you look at the Pelicans right now. They have literally the two best big men in the league, and they had Rondo at the point guard. And that's just why I get worried about having a talented point guard, because as great as Rondo was, he's not, and as great as he was in the playoffs, and he felt like he had the perfect team around him. Like imagine if that team just had like a top 5 point guard. They'd be the favorites. They'd be more favored than the Warriors. Like a top 5 point guard, Anthony Davis, Boogie Cousins, and Drew Holiday or Rondo, depending on which one you want to keep. And if we draft Trae Young and he ends up being as good as he is, like imagine the point guard matchups the East would have. You'd have Kyrie, and that's pretty much it. I know Chris Dunn, if we had him, he could lock up the other point guards, but the matchup wouldn't be very good because there's only so much you can do against a top 5 point guard. If Trae Young ends up being like a top 5 player, we would get dragged to the finals. But we'd always, well, maybe not necessarily the finals, but the Eastern Conference Finals, because we had to put up with the Sixers and the Celtics in the future, and maybe the Bucks. I just feel like Trae Young would make us leap from they have some good young players, but they'll be kind of good in the future, to like a potential dynasty.
But that's also what you have to look at Michael Porter Jr. if we get them in that other situation, and Chandler Hutchison in. Like, not everyone can score on the floor all the time regardless. Teammates carry the other teammates all the time. So if you're looking at Chris Dunn and saying like he's not going to be able to have that same type of scoring ability, well, that's fine, because on this team that we have, where we have Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, hopefully he pans out, Chandler Hutchison, Michael Porter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, we have all of these scorers, everyone who can score from basically all over the court. You're going to have a Chris Dunn in this situation to just like make sure everyone gets their touches, make sure they're all getting open, and they'll get open, because when you have all that scoring and they can score from anywhere, it's going to be pretty tough. Now, I do like Trae Young, and I do think that, he's going to have way less turnovers probably in the NBA, because he's not going to be the only option like he was in Oklahoma. But if we don't get him, we don't get him. My thing is like, when you look at Michael Porter Jr., I think he does have potential to be great. And to be great at the small forward position is always better than being great at the point guard position. Almost always. Because of just the height mismatch you can have on anybody. And especially at 6'10", like that's like a KD height mismatch. I'm not saying Michael Porter's going to be KD. I don't think he's going to be KD. But I do think that having that height mismatch is going to help you, because he can defend anyone. He said recently he thinks he can defend 1 through 4. That's a pretty big deal. Now, Trae Young, if you get that switch on Trae Young, he's 6'2", probably not 6'2", he's probably actually 6 foot. That's going to be a way bigger deal. But that's not something you have to worry about all the time. But it's just like in that scenario. Like, I don't think in like Chris Dunn's ever going to be a defensive liability unless he's guarding maybe a center. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm just saying other teammates can do what Trae Young is going to do if they decide to pan out. But I do think Trae Young has an extremely high ceiling, so I would be okay if the Bulls decided to draft him too. I'd be fine with it.
One more thing, Jack. I know you haven't talked in a while. I don't know if you wanted to, but the thing about Trae Young is, like, I know everything's about championships and stuff, but the Bulls already have the highest audience rating in the NBA. Could you imagine if they drafted Trae Young, how many people would start going to our games more in the crowds? That would be amazing. And that's another reason why I want to draft Young. It's kind of like ball, like Lonzo Ball, where all the hype goes around it and everyone's going to the Lakers games now. Like, you see the crowds full now. Well, we could kind of do that with Trae Young.
Well, we already have almost the best.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like we've always had for the longest time good fans, because we at least have been above average, but we didn't have a good season this year, and you could tell the ratings went down. We didn't have a single TNT game, or a home TNT game or anything. We didn't have any of those because they knew that we were going to suck.
Also, going back though to the Mo Bamba situation, if we did get him, now thinking about it, if we did get Mo Bamba, I'm just thinking if we got Mo Bamba and Chandler Hutchison, that actually wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, I think we could contend with that lineup.
Yeah, that would
for
actually
the playoffs at least, not for the championship. But
that could be good. I do see what you're saying about the whole attendance rating thing, but I don't think the Bulls have ever really had a problem with attendance rating.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying they would dramatically increase. It'd be on. Can you imagine going to a Bulls game?
Drastically?
Yeah. Wait, what did I say?
You said dramatic. It's okay. It's good.
Okay, my bad. But okay, look. Imagine Trae in a Bulls uniform hits a 3. Imagine the crowd. They would go absolutely insane.
I don't know why that can't happen with Michael Porter Jr. He's
There's a lot
nearly
of
as
hype around
popular.
him too, but you
Yeah.
can't lie. There's more hype around Trae.
That's true.
Look, I'm fine with either because both of them have the most potential in the draft. I feel like besides Marvin Bagley and Luka Doncic, you know.
Yeah, I think either of those two would be a big risk. And if we take Trae, that's a risk. If he pans out, we still have a hole at small forward. If we take Porter and he pans out, we don't really have a hole anywhere. So I know they always say draft for talent over need, but I think they're relatively equal in risk at the moment. And I would rather fill the need when their talent is pretty close.
Yeah.
What would you be fine if we drafted someone like Trae and then we drafted Chandler at 25?
That would be fine. I personally want a center, but I know that outside of the top 10, the centers aren't that amazing.
I could see though how Mo Bamba could work in the Bulls offense if we do have a Chandler Hutchison too, because that would be filling the two needs that we do need if you actually want Lowry to be a power forward instead of a center.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see how that could work. He could be like our Clint Capella, but could shoot.
Yeah.
Clint Capella cannot shoot. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I watch that dude miss on the free throw line all the time. Just
All right, how about this though? Who would feed our Clint Capella better, or Mo Bamba? Trae Young or Chris Dunn?
Well, we can't have Bamba and Young.
yeah, that's the only problem.
So
with
I would
that.
be happy with Dunn feeding Bamba.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I mean, if it was possible.
If it was possible,
Trae Young
I would probably
be
take
better.
Trae.
Blockbuster trade. We trade Chris Dunn, and
We don't even have him signed right now.
no, we trade Chris Dunn, and we trade one of our bad players for a top 5 pick. Could you see that happening?
See it happening? Probably not. If it happened, I'd be happy. Young
Dude, that would
and
be
Bamba?
super cool.
Yeah.
If someone just wants to give us a top 5 pick
But-
for a good player and a garbage player, like, I'm always going to take them.
Here's what I think is going to happen, though. We can talk a lot about the risk and who's best for the team, but I think we're going to take Young, Porter, or Bamba, and it's not going to be our choice. Only one of those guys is going to be available at 7 because I think they're the
No.
clear 5, 6, and 7.
You hear about them trying to draft Wendell Carter though, which is not a good idea at all.
Carter is an 8th pick, I think. He might fit on the team because
The
we need a
death
center.
count for
but-
Chicago will go up 100% if they drafted Wendell Carter.
The hottest take
Yeah.
by Zeke.
There will be there will be fire everywhere. It'll be on Fox News the next morning.
Oh my god, man!
I would rather take Mikal Bridges over Wendell Carter, I think.
Yeah,
I would too.
to be honest, I like Miles Bridges better. He has a better frame. I think he drives to the basket better. He dribbles better. I just like how he plays. He even rebounds better. It's just if you look at him, I feel like Mikal Bridges is more of like a spot up shooter.
Yeah.
And Miles Bridges can create his own shot, and that's something that the Bulls are missing. They're missing people who can create their own shot, and so that's why I think people like Miles Bridges, if you're looking at a Mikal Bridges, would be better because he can create his own shot. Also, going back to Chandler Hutchison, he can create his own shot too. So if we're looking in this draft, we need to look at players that can actually do those types of things because you need those types of things. All of the players on the Warriors, the good ones, like Steph, Clay, Kevin, they can create their own shot. That's what makes them special. And they have the three-point shooting ability. That's important. The Bulls don't have that. Zach LaVine can kind of do it, but he's not consistent. And it's
He's an
also
all-right 3-point shooter.
he is an all-right three-point shooter, and he can create his own shot. But when I'm saying he's inconsistent, and I think it's also because he's the only option right now, and everyone knows what he's going to be doing. But I just think it's a glaring thing that we're missing. And I know it would be cool if we could tank for one more season, but I really feel like with the players we gain from this draft, we're not going to be able to tank because we're probably going to re-sign Dunn. We're going to re-sign Levine. Whoever we get at small forward is going to really help. And then we're going to have...
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Lauri Markkanen, and let's just say Robin Lopez because we don't know who's going to be our center, and we don't know if we're going to take two small
Robin
forwards.
Lopez isn't for the future either.
Yeah, but he could still play. With that lineup, though, they're gonna start trying to contend right away. So that's the problem. We can't tank again. So we need to get our best options right now for playmaking players.
Man, I'm just saying, if Michael Porter Jr. or Trae Young is available and they just say Wendell Carter with the 7th pick of the draft, I would be so. Wouldn't you guys be mad?
I would be.
I'm turning
very
off
mad.
my
Even
TV.
if I know you're not a big fan of Trae, Jack, but wouldn't you be mad if we selected Wendell Carter over Trae Young?
Absolutely. I know I want a center, but talent over need all day.
That's the thing too. It's like
It's so stressful because it's like, wow, I need to fill this position, but like there's so many good players, you know?
I don't. It's just it's hard because sometimes I don't trust the Bulls.
Okay, here's the thing. The Chris Dunn Trae Young reminds me of the who do the Warriors have before Steph?
I don't even know.
He played
Monte
for,
Ellis?
Yeah, Monte Ellis and Steph Curry, where they drafted Steph, and then Monte was like, "Well, I'm not gonna play. I'm clearly the best player." And they took a risk and drafted
Dude,
Steph.
Monte
and they
was
never
cold
got
back
along.
then.
What's up?
Monte was cold back then,
Yeah,
though.
he was really good, but they took a risk and they said, "Hey, this guy has more potential than Monte. He could actually do something on the team." And they ended up being right. They drafted a 2-time MVP. You know, that's the thing. I feel like when there's a better option or a player with better potential, I would much rather have him.
The difference is, though, they didn't have to draft Monte. Like,
Oh well, still.
yeah, but that's the thing. Like if you're able to, okay, so they didn't lose anything by picking Steph. Okay, so if
So
they
you're
pick,
saying that we might miss out on like Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah,
draft.
that's-
okay. In that situation, I understand. But if the best option is Trae Young, would you agree with me?
I don't think he is over Porter Jr. I think it's too close to call.
No, I'm saying if Porter Jr.'s already been drafted, Mo Bamba's already been drafted, and Trae Young looks like he's the best option left. Would you agree with me in this situation?
Yes, because your best 3 options or best 4 options at that point are Trae Young, Wendell Carter, and the 2 Bridges.
Yeah.
And Young absolutely has the most potential there.
dude, I really like Aaron Holiday from UCLA, though. He doesn't look as flashy as Trae, but I think he has a lot of potential too. He can shoot really well. He gets his teammates involved. It's just, I don't know. I wish the Bulls could get him, but
It's not looking like it.
Yeah,
19th overall by CBS Sports. Now, if he moved to the 22nd pick and Chandler and Aaron weren't picked and we didn't pick Trae Young, who would you pick?
we didn't pick Trae Young.
If we didn't pick, okay, so the 7th pick went by, we drafted Michael Porter Jr. or Mo Bamba. Now it's the 22nd pick, and there's Aaron Holiday and Chandler. Who are you drafting?
Okay, so I would still pick Chandler Hutchison just because, like, I love that dude. I don't know. I just like how he plays the game. It's so smooth. He's just a scorer. And I haven't seen a scorer like that on the Bulls for a while. I mean, there was Derrick Rose. I'm not going to lie. Like, he was there for it. But he got hurt. Hopefully that doesn't happen to these players. You know, I'm praying. But that's why I would take him. Aaron Holiday's a scorer, too. He can score. But he's just not the point guard we need right then and there. He will be good for another team. I wish the Bulls could somehow get him, but I think if you're going to take a point guard, then you probably should take Trae Young instead and then get Chandler later on, if that's what your vision is for what you take. There are a lot of good players in this draft, though.
Yeah, I really do feel like the Bulls should do something to get another pick in the first round this year. I feel like they should try and maneuver because we can actually, because as good as our team is now, well, our team's not that good, but as good as it could be, I feel like some adjustments could be made through the players we pick.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting an extra pick in the first round, or maybe not even the first round, like early second, could really help our team.
So
Who do you think we should trade?
Well, imagine if we got both Chandler and Aaron because we traded someone like Zach LaVine away. Because Zach LaVine does have a lot of potential, but with all these injury problems, he can end up just being like Avery Bradley, you know?
Yeah.
Avery Bradley, just when you hear his name, you don't think of some guy who can be on a championship team. That's my comparison.
I could see him as a role player on a championship
Yeah,
team.
exactly. Here, I just want to talk about the Celtics for a second. I know it's completely off topic,
It's
but
fine.
last year the Celtics' best players were Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, and
Jaylen Brown.
no,
was
Jay
pretty
Crowder. Those were the three guys you thought of when you thought of the Celtics. I know Al Horford was there, and well, now he's clearly but people were hating on him last year. Don't you remember that? Like, oh, he's only putting up these much numbers.
I remember that, but I was thinking, you don't understand. You have to watch
Right,
how he plays
right.
the game.
But by that logic, those were pretty much in everyone's eyes the three best players. As soon as they traded them all away, no one even talks about them anymore. Like, it just shows how great Brad Stevens' system is. And I'm also going to ask you this: is Terry Rozier really that good, or is it Brad Stevens' system, or is it both?
I think it can be both.
Yeah, I agree. I think Terry Rozier does have some moves, though, and he knows how to get his teammates involved. But he also has a lot of teammates that offer a lot of things. Like, he has so many options. So it is easier as a point guard when you have a good system and have a lot of options at the same time. But don't get me wrong, he can score. So I think it's a good situation for both the Celtics and Terry Rozier.
All right, this is my take on Terry Rozier. If he didn't go to Boston, he wouldn't have a breakout season. Like, he'd still be developing, I feel like. If he was on, like, the Bulls, like, he'd be putting up 5 points a game on the bench. But I'm not saying, like, in the future he wouldn't be good, but he just wouldn't have had a breakout season yet.
This season, you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. But the thing is the potential is higher for him. He's faster than Isaiah was. He has the potential to be a better scorer. He plays better defense. I just feel like Isaiah Thomas has limits, but because he was in Boston and with the system that he had, it made him look better. And it makes Terry Rozier also look better, but he just has so much more potential where it could actually work out for him on another team, unlike Isaiah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right about Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge. Ainge is going to trade Rozier for more than he's worth, like he did with Isaiah and Crowder. He's good, but not as good as the Celtics is making him seem.
Here's another thing. What's going to fill their backup point guard role?
Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I feel like I love Marcus Smart, but I feel like the Celtics want to move on. Don't you guys remember Danny Ainge said he'd offer a first-round pick for Marcus Smart?
Yeah, but I think if
He's also the heart of the team. But I acknowledge all that, but I'm just saying, imagine if they got rid of Smart too. They couldn't do anything.
They can't get rid of both Smart and
Yeah,
Rozier. They have to
that's
pick
the
one.
problem, because like they have problems with both of them. They have problems with Terry Rozier, not because he's like bad or anything, but he has one more year left, and they're like, wow, we either have to pay this dude or get rid of him. And then Marcus Smart, they want to move on from him. You know, he's had problems with the franchise. You know, he punched like a picture, right, and broke his hand.
I mean, if I'm the Celtics, I'm keeping Marcus Smart as a six-man for next season because they're going to have Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, and then your six-man. It's going to be a mix. It's going to be Marcus Morris and Marcus Smart. And Marcus Smart can play a lot of positions. So he's just all over the place. He'll guard whoever.
If they're able to keep Marcus Smart, he'd definitely be six-man. I'm just saying, do you think they will actually be able to keep both?
No, not both.
They'll
Exactly.
keep one. I think Marcus Smart's the one they keep.
Okay, but what if they can't keep either?
Then
What do they do at point guard then?
That's what I'm saying. Their backup role. I feel like no one's talking about this because
They might get Aaron Holiday. They have extra picks.
I could see it.
Dang, that would be good for them.
Yeah, no,
that would be good.
This is the first year in a while they're not like a top 10 pick.
Yeah, but
You know, and they could have been if one of the teams that they drafted higher, they would have automatically got their pick like top 5. I think it was like the Lakers or something.
Yeah, it was the Lakers
Yeah.
pick. Philly has it.
So that kind of sucks for them, but not really because they had a pick every year. you know?
It's nuts to think about the Celtics because look at how far they're getting in these playoffs. Next year, they're getting Kyrie Irving and another All-Star, Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
And they're already ahead in the conference finals.
And they might not even be done either. They could still sign free agents. They could still trade for better players. This team. Okay, actually, I saw something, and it was talking about. There was a team. Do you guys remember a team in the past where they had like so much potential, but they ended up being garbage?
Well, there are a lot of teams.
Well, okay.
Little
This is the take.
the Lakers are Karl Malone. Like,
This is the take I have. You have to pay because everyone's contracts is like less than 3 years, 2 to 3 years. You have to pay Kyrie Irving, you have to pay Gordon Hayward, you have to pay Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier. It just, you can't do all that. There might be that's what I was thinking of. The Thunder. They had James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka,
Kendrick Perkins.
That's what I'm saying.
He was important on that team. Don't make fun of Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah, he was good at the time. But that's what I'm saying is their whole team fell apart because they didn't know how to manage all this money. They're like, James, I know you're asking for a lot, but we're going to keep Serge Ibaka because he goes with the team. Then James leaves and he's amazing.
Man, imagine if they kept James Harden and traded Russell.
Could you?
Oh, but Kevin Durant would have stayed.
Could you imagine if could you imagine if they're like, Tatum, you're asking for too much, we're gonna get rid of you, or Jalen, we're asking too much, and he ends up being a star somewhere, and it kind of causes the collapse with the Celtics?
I don't think that's gonna happen though, because I see this team for some reason. I feel like they're still gonna stick together. Like you look at them. They could have
said the same about the Thunder when it happens, though.
That's
true.
But
none of these players are gonna be like those ego type players. I know Kevin Durant is, but like none of them are great.
Russell Westbrook is too.
Yeah, I know he is too.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's why he asked for that huge contract. Same thing with James Harden, which kind of messes up their team going on in the future. But it's whatever. I'm just saying. I don't think that besides maybe Kyrie Irving, I don't think they're going to command them to pay them extreme amounts of money.
Yeah, all that all-star talent, they can go on another dynasty if the guys don't ask to get paid.
Also, Gordon, I know I just made this point, and I'm kind of like contradicting it, but Gordon Hayward joined that team for a reason. It wasn't for the money; it's because he wants to win.
Yeah, he took less money.
Yeah, the Jazz probably offered him a max before he went, and he said no. So there was that. Jaylen Brown, I feel like he's really unselfish. He has a really good relationship with Jason Tatum, and he'd be willing to make less money. Oh, another thing is Horford. He's getting old. What are they going to do about that? He's the most perfect fit for that team ever, but he's gonna start like becoming worse because of his age.
I mean, they could get a Jonte Porter.
It's just gonna be seeing like you really can't think of another center who plays a lot like him. He's so different from any other center. He can guard 1 through 5. Because he can guard point guards, too. If you ever watch the games, he's literally on the point guards.
That's why I'm saying you can get a Jonte Porter. Like, that's, if you don't know, that's Michael Porter Jr.'s brother. I'm not saying that for you guys. I'm saying that for whoever's going to be listening.
Right.
But basically, that dude can guard maybe like 2 through 5. He's 6'11". He could shoot threes. I think he's going to continue to develop because that's what he needs to do. But I think if the Celtics want to get him at the end of the first round, he would actually be a good fit, and maybe a mentorship like role with like him under Al Horford could actually help him become into like their up and coming Al Horford. I could actually see that. I think that they should take advantage of that because Al Horford's a 3-point shooter. He's also a mid-range shooter. He can score in the paint. Now, Jonte Porter can't score in the paint as well as Al Horford, but that also comes with time. Not everyone's the greatest like in the post, but like in the beginning of the career because they need to get stronger. That's why Al Horford's so good right now because he is a mature player. He knows how to do his moves. He is stronger than a lot of the guys that he plays against, and I think that maybe going forward, they could keep on drafting. I'm sure Danny Ainge knows what he's doing when he's drafting. Just look at all of his draft picks.
I'm pretty sure they still have more first-round picks, too, that aren't
theirs.
The Celtics, they're just so interesting. There's so many potential futures they can have. They can only end up with one championship, with multiple, with none. They're just like the most interesting team to talk about, I feel like. And it's been like that for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that sucks is that when you look at their team and you look at who they're going to have to go up against, which is the Golden State Warriors going forward, because the Rockets, their team could crumble after this season because a lot of people are on their last years of their contracts.
The Warriors?
But what I was going to get to the point I was going to make is that no one on the Celtics can guard Kevin Durant. There is no one who has the length or the speed to guard Kevin Durant.
You know who they put on him? Jaylen Brown.
That's probably who they will put on him, but
I mean, he's still not gonna be able to. I know. I'm not saying that because
Yeah.
he can guard him. I'm just saying
It's the
that's
best
just.
shot.
I feel like that's the best matchup.
Yeah, because Marcus Morris is too slow.
Is that why you think that if the Celtics won, they could beat the Rockets because the Warriors have Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because like
And also, they'd have a huge matchup problem with Steph. Like, think about that too.
I think Jaylen Brown would actually do a very good job
On
guarding
Steph?
Steph.
Also, he probably
Or
like,
Marcus Smart would actually do a very good job guarding
yeah.
Steph.
Also, last year, I watched a lot of the Celtics Warriors games because those are always so interesting. When Isaiah was on the team, Jaylen Brown had trouble guarding Steph in those games. Like he did, I think the last game he did really well in, but like overall, he wasn't really the best defender against Steph. Now it is a year later and it could be different because he's a lot more developed. But
Way more
We'll just have to
developed.
see, or maybe if it happens.
I guess it would be better if Jaylen Brown was on Klay Thompson. I think that would be better. But if you can somehow, it would suck though because this would hurt their offensive game. Have Marcus Smart on Steph, that would be their best option. I feel
I'd rather have Jason Tatum on
Steph
on Klay.
on Klay.
Just because Klay, he could drive to the hoop when he wants to, but he's going to shoot a lot. And Jason Tatum has that length. Obviously, he's not a really good defender, but he has that length to guard him. And I feel like that spread out the more of the matchups for
Mhm.
the other players.
And Marcus Morris has to guard Draymond. That's the only matchup
Exactly.
for that. I mean, that's probably what we're going to be seeing going forward. I mean, I would like to see the Rockets make it to the finals,
Oh, I was
but
just about to
after
talk about that.
CP3 got injured, it's not looking that good unless Harden has a 40-point game. But he hasn't been scoring the way he should. So I don't know how that's going to be.
Jack, the series is 3-2 right now. Golden State down 2. Rockets have 3. Who do you see winning this series and how many games?
Well, I think the Warriors are going to win Game 6 because with no CP3, I don't really trust Harden to have a 40-point game because he's had playoff issues for most of his career. And even if he does, they might not have enough to outlast the Warriors. And Game 7, it really depends on CP3 coming back. I'd call it even.
So if CP3 comes back, you have the Rockets, but if he doesn't, you'd have the Warriors.
Sounds about right.
Okay. Brendan, what do you think? Who do you got? And how
For-
many games?
For the finals?
No, for Rockets and Thunder. Rockets
Thunder.
and Warriors.
Wow.
Whoops. My bad.
I think it's going to go to 7.
So you feel like it's definitely going to go to 7.
Yeah. If it goes to 7, though, that's what my problem is. It's going to the Warriors unless Chris Paul comes back. Chris Paul has been the glue that's held the Rockets together. If you're watching the games, you see he keeps them in. Like, everyone was talking about, including myself, that Harden was going to rise above and keep the Rockets together. But really,
I don't think so.
It's been Chris.
Yeah, it's been Chris Paul. And without him, whenever they've had slumps, he's been the one to pull them out. So I just feel like without Chris Paul, the Rockets aren't the Rockets.
All right. And on the other side, the series for the East is 3-2. Cavs are down 2. Celtics up 3. Who do you got in 7 games? Who do you got winning in how many games?
I got the Celtics in
6.
in 6.
So you
If
got
the
them
Celt-
winning today.
Yeah.
If the Celtics are going to win, it has to be in 6. LeBron's not going to lose a Game 7.
So you're saying that the Celtics are gonna win today, but if they don't, Cavs at 7.
Yeah, whoever wins today wins the series.
I
in my eyes.
absolutely agree. This series actually has been more fun for me to watch than Rockets and Warriors, as much as I liked it.
I agree.
I just feel like Kyrie's gone, and Kyrie's gone from Cleveland, and you're like, oh, he's gonna be on the Celtics now. Nope, he's not there. So just the matchups are just so much more fun.
Yeah, I agree.
But the thing is, though, I actually enjoyed the Rockets Warriors series a lot more these past 2 games because it's been super competitive. That's what I really like. It's a super competitive basketball, close games, and you see this team that's like this juggernaut team actually get beat. Like, they shouldn't lose at all.
Ever.
Well, they have 2 MVPs.
They do. The Warriors have. I go on the record as being like, I always really like Golden State, and everyone knows that, but they have no excuse to lose the series. Not at all. You have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, the greatest shooter in the world. You have, well, I mean, arguable for some people, but I feel like most people believe with that. It's, one of the greatest scorers, Kevin Durant, who are both MVPs, a top 20 probably shooter all time, 3-point, and Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, who's a defensive player of the year. You have no excuse. I don't care if James Harden is the MVP this year and you have a Chris Paul now.
They should go 4-0 every series.
Exactly.
There's no excuse. And that's the thing. The reason why it hasn't been going that way is because if you look at how the Rockets are making them play, they're making them play Rocket basketball instead of Warrior basketball, which is iso ball.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Warriors usually they play like a pick and roll offense essentially, kind of. So like they'll run a pick and roll, and then someone will be open on the outside, and they'll kick it out, and they'll keep on moving the ball until someone's open. The best shot is available. But what's happening is that the Rockets are so good at switching, and they've gotten better as the series went on. So it's really been messing up the Warriors' system, which is crazy because I've never seen this happen. And because of this, the Warriors aren't playing like the Warriors, which doesn't make sense to me because regardless of the Rockets being very good at playing defense against your offense, you have 2 MVPs. They should be able to figure out how to score. And to see Kevin Durant struggle against Clint Capella, it's just mind-boggling. So that's why I love that series.
I think what happened yesterday was KD stopped trusting his teammates. Inside the track caught Steve Kerr telling KD that he wasn't doing that, and KD just kept throwing up iso ball, and it went completely against the Warriors system, which is usually incredibly ball movement heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to give my predictions because I didn't. So Rockets, Warriors. I had the Warriors winning in 6 before the season even started. Obviously, it's not going to happen, but I do have the Warriors winning in 7. I feel like when the Warriors are down, they always do their great, ironically, because you know what happened with Cleveland. But I feel like when the Warriors are down in the playoffs, they have something. There's a switch that they can just turn. You know, they've been to the finals for 3 straight years, and I don't see them missing a 4th one.
Sounds like LeBron.
Yeah. And I have the same exact thing with you. I have Celtics if they have to pull it off tonight. If they don't, it's Cavs in 7. Boston never loses at home though. And I'm more 51 Celtics tonight, 49 Cavs. It's really undecided for me, but just knowing how Boston's lose at home, that's how I feel about it. But then there's also LeBron James, and we know what LeBron's done to the Celtics in the past when he was down 2-3.
It can happen though. The Warriors just snapped their playoff home winning streak. I think they got up to 16 until that last loss. So if it can happen to the Warriors, I think it can happen to the Celtics too.
Yeah, I mean everything is up in the air for all of these teams. I actually did have initially the Rockets actually winning the series in 6. I know that was a probably bold prediction, but I'm upset though because with the loss of Chris Paul, it just kills me inside.
Yeah, the basketball gods are not they don't forgive people. They're really cruel. You know, getting rid of Chris Paul. It was like it's like as soon as everyone gets happy and they're enjoying it, they're like, wow, it might be another, final series. Nope. Chris
They
Paul,
were like,
you're out
how's
of here.
that hamstring feeling?
Yeah. And another annoying thing that's been happening is a thing with Steph Curry. Now, I love Steph Curry, and everyone I know knows I love Steph Curry. But people are just giving him too many excuses as of recently. You're not even the best player on your team, and you're putting up 15 points a game 1 and 2. And then they had the nerve to say that he was injured. Like if he was injured, he wouldn't have put up 35 in game 3, which was really great. I'm not like subtracting that. It's just every time something happens to Steph where he doesn't do as good, someone always tries to find an excuse why. It's like, no, it was just because he was guarded heavily and they played good defense on him.
They did play good defense on him, but that shouldn't be like an excuse.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
Yeah, like you said, like it's just they do play their offense a lot through Steph. I think Steph is, in terms of how well their offense flows, he's more important than KD is. But at the same time, it's like if you're Steph Curry and you're this 2-time MVP, this shouldn't be a problem that anyone has to worry about on your team. They shouldn't have to worry about if you're going to show up and people making excuses for you. If you are one of these like all-time great players that everyone's saying Steph Curry is, you can't have that type of game in the playoffs. You just can't. So, especially 2 games in a row. That's just it's unacceptable. I mean, regardless of if you're hurt or not, if you're on the floor, that doesn't matter. You're playing. If you're hurt, you're hurt. You chose to be on the floor. You got to put it all out there, because that's what you're there for. If you can't do that, don't come on the court, because you're just doing your teammates a disservice.
I think the same thing can be said for James Harden, because we were talking about it. Chris Paul has been bailing him out a lot. We know he's had playoff struggles last year against the Spurs, I think. And if he, like we said, if he doesn't have a 40-point game or something like that, that same logic you just applied to Steph also applies to Harden.
Yeah, no, I think Harden has to have a 40-point game today. Well, not today. I'm sorry. It's tomorrow, right?
Right.
Yeah, tomorrow. Because if he doesn't, that takes away so much from him. Because he could still be the MVP of the regular season, but none of that matters unless you're the MVP of the playoffs, or the postseason.
Harden shouldn't be able to take on Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond all by himself without Chris Paul.
Yeah.
The Celtics have definitely overachieved. I know they won a lot of games with all the injuries they had. I feel like the Sixers underachieved, but I don't think you should go on Embiid or Simmons' resume. You know, if you win 50 games and you lose in the second round, that's underachieving. But when it's like a rookie and a second-year player, like, it's not going to be counted against them in the future. You know, I don't know. I'm just talking about teams over and underachieving. I feel like the Bucks underachieved because they should have been able to beat the Celtics. There was no excuse for that with their big man lineup and Giannis being a potential MVP.
but
You
the
know?
I think the excuse is coaching.
Yeah.
Oh.
Also, an excuse for that is that they can't shoot.
But think of the talent matchup. They had, when you have more talent on the team, they're not. When has ever in history had there been more talent on the other team and they were like, well, they should have won because they had better coaching? Like, no, like, we've never done that in NBA history, but now it's like different.
But Mavericks.
Brad Stevens is changing the
exactly.
game.
Brad Stevens is amazing, but that doesn't give an excuse for the Bucks to lose that series. They should have won.
I thought the Celtics were going to win, but I still felt like Giannis should have pulled it off. But the thing is, though, that goes back to looking at like how important being able to shoot is in this NBA. Like, Giannis, he's not really the best shooter. And when you look at that, it's like your best player has to be able to shoot as well. That's why the Sixers had such a problem against the Celtics, because Ben Simmons can't shoot. And if you can't shoot, then when you have to score in like numerous ways, especially against a Brad Stevens coach, he's going to figure out if you can only score one way. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. So at the end of the day, it's like, you know, you got to be able to shoot.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was an upset, and that's what I'm trying to get out. Because if the Bucks won, it wouldn't have been an upset. Clearly, if you think about it, just think about it. It wouldn't be the Bucks upset the Celtics.
I don't think it was an upset.
Yeah,
I don't think the talent on the Bucks outweighs what the Celtics had.
I know
Giannis is Giannis.
You feel like the Celtics upset. No, you feel like the Bucks would have upset the Celtics if they won?
Yeah.
Yes, I would, because I know Giannis is a top 5, maybe top 10 player in the NBA, but the best player, like, relative to how we perceive them for the Bucks in that series, was Chris Middleton, because he can shoot.
The thing is, though, Marcus Smart was out, Kyrie Irving was out, Gordon Hayward. Their best players were Jason Tatum. Al Horford's still really good. He's an all-star. I'm not taking away from that. But,
yeah, Horford was great that series.
But the Bucks had Jabari Parker, Chris Middleton, Giannis, Thon. He could turn it up sometimes. I just feel like that matchup compared to the Celtics is just like, if you went back a year ago, just go back a year ago, before the playoffs even started, you'd be like, oh, I'd definitely take that Bucks team over the Celtics team, in a heartbeat. Giannis, Middleton, Jabari, and Thon versus Jason Tatum.
Because nobody
Jaylen
would have
Brown.
known how Tatum and Brown would pan out. How
Exactly. But like now that they're good and they're showing they're good, I don't really feel like that's fair to say that it wasn't an upset because it's like, oh, since they're having a breakout season now, that makes it not an upset. That's basically what I'm just trying to get at.
I think I might just think lower of the Bucks' talent than you because
Yeah, same.
I'm not big on Jabari Parker. Malcolm Brogdon is fine. He's not Rookie of the Year fine in my eyes. And Giannis can't carry all of that.
I think
Giannis and Chris Middleton. Sorry.
I think it was just the hype that everyone brought to the Bucks. Remember the beginning of the season when everyone was like, Giannis is an MVP candidate because of the numbers he was putting up?
I disagreed with that from the beginning of the season. Giannis is
yeah,
really good,
but the hype for it, right?
Yeah, I remember
and
the
the hype
hype
for the Bucks team. It was like, wow, they have so much talent. They're going to do something in the playoffs, and now lost in the first round.
I thought that they weren't going to go anywhere in the playoffs. I thought that they would get to the playoffs, but it's like that whole team is on Giannis's shoulders. Like, that's the problem. And Giannis can't shoot. So, like, if Giannis could shoot and that whole team was on his shoulders, they would at least make it to the next round. But even at that, they don't have enough talent on that team to make it past that point. So, I don't think that they're that talented because, like,
But who had more talent going into that series, the Celtics or the Bucks?
I still think the Celtics.
I think the Celtics, yeah.
Okay, but that wasn't what was perceived by everyone. Everyone thought that the Bucks were perceived that they had more talent than the Celtics, and that's
I
just what
always
I'm trying to
thought
get
that
at.
the Bucks were missing a rim protector big time because Thon wasn't getting those minutes.
Yeah, also, it's a good thing I'm not everyone. So, I mean, like,
Well, I'm not trying to get at you
It's a good-
guys. I'm just the way that it was perceived.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
that's
get what
true.
you're saying. And a lot of people, I do know what you're talking about. A lot of people were thinking that Giannis was gonna somehow like will them above everybody else, but I mean, I didn't think so. Just because like it's not fair for Giannis if he can't shoot. Like Giannis should be able to shoot, but it's not fair to expect that of him if he can't shoot. That's my whole thing. Like that's taking away a whole aspect of the game today, and it's so important. But that's about it for today. So this is the Unbearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Zeke Cappel.
And Jack Cowart.
and thanks for listening.